the smartest sports YouTuber, back with another video. And in this video, I'm going to tell you why Justin Herbert is overrated. That is a fact. He is overrated right now. I'm not saying he's not good. Let me be clear. Justin Herbert is good, but he is overrated, especially by these Charger fanboys, these Justin Herbert fanboys. And if you disagree with this, then you're just biased. Okay, I bring arguments with no bias in them. I don't have a bias in this. I just know that he's overrated, and I'm gonna point out why he's overrated. People are starting to have him in their top 10, their top 5, and I'll just start it with this. If you look at Justin Herbert's numbers, you would see, if you actually dive deep into the stats and not just look at the casual stats, you would realize that he is a dump down king. He just dumped down the ball so much last year. I mean, think about this. People think of Tua, they think of him just dumping the ball down, very short passes. And I mean, that is true. He does do a lot of short passes, but intended air yards, how far you actually throw the ball, not yards per attempt, because you could throw a screen pass, it can get 8 yards, and your yards per attempt obviously will look, it will be 8 yards. It will look a lot better than just a little screen pass. So intended air yards is actually what you should look at when you think of someone, if they're dumping the ball down or not. And Justin Herbert had one of the lowest intended air yards in the league, even lower than Tua Tagovailoa. He was right there next to Cam Newton. And we know Cam Newton, how short his passing game was. So if you look at Justin Herbert, he was a dump down king. And how are you going to dump the ball down that much, throw such short passes, and still have double-digit interceptions and not even 16 games played? So that's one thing to tell yourself. How is that possible? And for accuracy, between Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow is more accurate. You might look at completion percentage and think Justin Herbert's more accurate, but if you actually look into it, Joe Burrow's intended air yards was over a yard higher than Justin Herbert's. He threw the ball on average a yard farther than Justin Herbert, and their completion percentage was off by 1%. 1%. And he's throwing the ball over a yard farther than Justin Herbert is on average. And yes, Joe Burrow was one of the worst deep ball throwers in the league last year. That's a fact. But what's also a fact is he was a great deep ball thrower in college. So if he was a bad deep ball thrower in college and he did that in the NFL, then you would start to worry. But since he did a great job in college on his deep throws, the NFL, I'm just gonna think that's an aberration here. That's not gonna happen again. And guess what? They brought his best deep threat and his best receiver from college, Jamar Chase, to work on that, because that was their biggest problem. And it also doesn't help for Joe Burrow is AJ Green averaged the least amount of separation for any receiver in football. Any receiver that qualified, AJ Green averaged the least amount of separation. So obviously that doesn't help when he's getting 100 targets in that year. And you're replacing AJ Green with Jamar Chase, who's not going to be one of the worst at separating, who is going to be a deep threat, who is going to help Joe Burrow out with his deep passing game. And Joe Burrow was already one of the best intermediate passers, 10 to 15 yards. Joe Burrow was one of the best in the league already. So if you have one of the best medium route throwers, and then he just improves his deep game, and we already know he's more accurate than Justin Herbert. I mean, 1% off his completion percentage from Justin Herbert, and he's throwing a yard farther on average down the field. And people want to talk about Justin Herbert's 31 touchdowns and all that, his yards, but you want to talk about how the fact Justin Herbert had more passing attempts than Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Think about that. He had more passing attempts than two of the best quarterbacks in the league. How does that work? So you want to champion these numbers, but you don't want to actually look into the numbers and say, oh look, his intended air yards is down at the bottom of the league, lower than Tua's, close to Cam Newton's. Oh, that might bring his completion percentage higher. He's doing a ton of dump downs, so that's going to give him more yards. That's going to make his completion percentage higher. And while he's doing that, he's also throwing 10 interceptions. So I'm guessing next year they're going to go down the field more. That's why I'm predicting his interceptions will go up. His completion percentage will go down. He's going to have a sophomore slump. So that's, first of all, why I'm thinking he's overrated and people are overrating him. And you even got dumbasses in the media trying to say he's a dark horse for MVP. How is Justin Herbert a dark horse for MVP? He's not even gonna sniff the MVP. He won't even come close. That's just so dumb to say. You got Charger fanboys, Herbert fanboys screaming, MVP, he's top 5, he's gonna be top 5 in the league after this year, he's already top 10. I mean, you just sound stupid. Like, are we gonna forget about New England? We're gonna forget about that game? He got shut out. He got shut out. 45-0. I'm not even gonna talk about his defense or his special teams that game because he got shut out. Can't win a game if you don't score any points. And he threw the ball over 50 times. Had 0 touchdowns, 2 picks. Imagine throwing the ball over 50 times and getting shut out. Imagine that. Well, Justin Herbert doesn't have to imagine it because he did that. I mean, that's embarrassing. That right there, that's a disgrace. And people want to keep championing his name. Like he's better than Joe Burrow? Really? Really? Okay, so after 1 year, he's better than Joe Burrow, even though if we look at their last 5 games, Joe Burrow played much better than him. If we look at their last 5 games, excluding the Chiefs game, like I said in another video, because the Chiefs sat all their people. So, yeah, Joe Burrow was on a better track than Justin Herbert. Last 5 games, teams started to figure Herbert out. Look at New England, look at Miami, look at Carolina. He only scored 16 points against Carolina. 16. And it's not like it was his first start. He scored 16 points against the Carolina Panthers. Got shut out against the Patriots. Struggled against Miami. So you can miss me with all the MVP talk, miss me with the top 10 talk. He's not better than Joe Burrow. You sound stupid if you actually think that. And how's it going to look when Joe Burrow leads his team to the playoffs and has a better record than the Chargers? How's that going to look? Because we all know the Chargers have a more talented team than the Bengals, but the Bengals will have a better record than the Chargers. So how's that going to look? Joe Burrow's going to have better numbers and a better record coming off 9 months off an ACL tear. And people are going to realize, oh, we were too early. We jumped the train too early on Justin Herbert because Joe Burrow's clearly better than him. So the Charger fanboys need to get out of their feelings, and that's a fact. I just can't wait till week 1, till after the Bengals are 1-0. Joe Burrow beats the Vikings, and I mean, if the Chargers lose to the Washington football team, then that just lets you know right there, you're in for a rough year. I mean, Chargers fans should realize they're in for a disappointment from their quarterback and their team. And you better be coming back to my channel apologizing. You better apologize. Eat your crow, apologize like a man or woman that you are. And you just listened to the smartest sports YouTuber on the planet. That's a fact. And I'm out.